The word layoff is enough to send shivers down the spine of almost anyone. It means uncertainty. It means disruption. For many, it feels like rejection, even betrayal. And yet, in today's world, layoffs are as common as the changing of the seasons. Economic downturns, technological shifts, corporate restructuring, all can result in hundreds, sometimes thousands of people suddenly left without work. The question is not whether this reality exists. It does. The question is, how do we respond? Imagine this. You've been at a company for 10 years, you've given loyalty, time, and energy, and then one morning, a short meeting changes everything. We regret to inform you that your role has been eliminated. Some respond with anger, others collapse into despair. Many scramble, their minds racing with what now? But amidst all this chaos, a deeper question emerges. Is there another way to face such a moment? Consider also the young professional just starting out, a first job, a sense of momentum, suddenly cut short by forces entirely outside their control. Or the parent who depends on steady income to provide stability for children. For them, layoffs don't just touch pride or identity, they reach into survival itself. The rent, the groceries, the medical bills, these are not abstract concerns, they are life. Losing a job is not just a shift in schedule. It can feel like the ground itself has disappeared. It is in moments like these that philosophy is tested. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Not for the quiet hours of comfort, but for the storms of existence." He knew that life would take unexpected turns. He reminded himself daily that loss, change, and disruption were not accidents. They were part of the design of the world. If he stood in a modern office and heard the words of termination, he would not be surprised. He would nod, recognizing what he had always known: nothing external is permanent. This recognition is not cold detachment, it is clarity. To prepare the mind for impermanence is to soften the blow when impermanence arrives. Marcus would remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. The layoff is the event. How we frame it, how we respond, that is our domain. The pain comes not from the notice itself, but from the judgments we layer onto it. Judgments of worthlessness, hopelessness, or doom. If Marcus could endure the weight of empire and the collapse of stability around him, he would teach us to endure the loss of employment with perspective. He would remind us that the role was always borrowed, never owned. That skills, character, and integrity remain untouched by corporate decisions. That what feels like an end can also be the start of new practice. Practice in resilience, in humility, in redirection. So what would Marcus Aurelius do if he faced layoffs? He would not rage. He would not despair. He would turn inward, steady his mind, and remind himself that the obstacle is not the enemy, it is the way. And through his eyes, we too can see layoffs not as the collapse of a life, but as the stage upon which strength, clarity, and endurance are tested and revealed. Why do layoffs disturb us so deeply? The first root lies in identity. Many of us define ourselves by what we do. I am a manager. I am an engineer. I am a teacher. These titles become more than descriptions. They become definitions. When that title is stripped away, it feels as though our very self has been taken. We confuse our worth with our role, and when the role disappears, the illusion of self-worth disappears with it. But Marcus reminds us, you are a soul carrying a body, not a job title, not a paycheck. The confusion between who we are and what we do is the first source of suffering. A job is external, it can be given or taken. Your character is internal, it cannot be touched unless you allow it. The second root is control. A layoff is imposed upon us. We didn't choose it. We didn't cause the economy to slow or the budget to shrink. We may have worked with diligence, and still the decision comes from a boardroom far removed from our effort. Our mind revolts against the idea that forces outside us can dictate our path. We crave certainty. We want to believe that hard work guarantees security. Yet Stoicism begins with the recognition control is limited. Some things are in our control and some are not. Our choices remain, but the external world never belonged to us in the first place. A layoff is a blunt reminder of that truth. It confronts us with the limits of control, and it is our resistance to this limit that generates turmoil. The third root is fear of financial instability. How will I pay rent, buy food, cover medical bills? Fear of what others will think, friends, family, colleagues. Fear of starting again, of being left behind. These fears do not arrive one by one, they multiply in the silence after the announcement. When imagination races ahead, in that silence, worst-case scenarios become vivid. Fear magnifies the unknown until it feels unbearable. But Marcus teaches, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Fear is not built into the event, it is built into our interpretation. The job loss is real. The belief that life has ended with it is not. Fear is the mind's projection, not the event itself. The fourth root is attachment to expectation. We thought the job would last longer. We expected loyalty to be rewarded, not dismissed. We expected a linear path, work, promotion, stability, retirement. When reality collides with expectation, pain arises. But again, the Stoic position is firm. Expectation is illusion. The world does not conform to our plans. Marcus reminded himself daily that everything is subject to change, that nothing is promised. The only guarantee is impermanence. Layoffs are simply one face of that impermanence, no different in kind from other changes that life delivers. To expect permanence is to live against the grain of reality. But there is a fifth root we must also name: comparison. When laid off, many immediately look outward. Why me and not them? Why was my contribution overlooked while theirs was kept? This comparison deepens the wound. It adds envy to loss. Yet Stoicism warns that the measure of another's fate is irrelevant to our own. Marcus would say, another's actions cannot diminish your virtue. The layoff of one and retention of another is not evidence of worth. It is evidence of circumstance. Comparison is poison, and its antidote is to focus only on one's own reasoned choices. Seen clearly, the sting of layoffs comes not from the loss itself, but from distortions. Mistaken identity, the illusion of control, the habit of fear, the trap of expectation, and the poison of comparison. These are inner errors, not external punishments. If we can untangle these roots, the event itself loses its power to crush us. And it is here that Marcus's perspective becomes not just philosophy, but survival. For when the roots of suffering are exposed, the possibility of freedom emerges. So now we ask directly, if Marcus Aurelius himself faced layoffs today, how would he respond? The question is not a thought experiment for idle curiosity. It is a practical reflection. His philosophy was not crafted for the lecture hall, but for the challenges of life: war, disease, betrayal, and loss. A layoff is simply the modern form of what he always prepared himself to face, the unexpected blow that tests the stability of the mind. First, he would pause, not react in anger, not collapse into despair. His first instinct would be silence. He advised himself often, take a view from above. That means stepping back, refusing to be consumed by the first wave of emotion. To see yourself, the company, the city, and the entire world from a higher perspective is to reduce the scale of the event. From that height, the layoff shrinks. A job lost is not a life lost. It is one incident in a world of billions, a single turn in a much larger cycle. Silence in this sense is not weakness but discipline, the space that prevents passion from overtaking reason. Second, he would separate event from judgment. The fact, your role has ended. The judgment, this is catastrophic. I am worthless. I cannot recover. The Stoic move is to keep the fact clean, unpolluted by the labels we habitually attach. Without judgment, the fact remains neutral. Yesterday employed, Today, not employed. Painful, yes, but survivable. Marcus would remind himself that external changes cannot harm the soul unless the soul consents. To strip away catastrophic thinking is to strip away unnecessary suffering. Third, he would redirect attention to what remains within his control. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The layoff does not cancel the ability to choose. He could update his resume, reach out to contacts, learn new skills, or adjust his lifestyle. None of these are guaranteed to solve the problem instantly, but each is within his power. The job was taken, but freedom was not. Fortune can alter circumstances, but it cannot remove the capacity for reasoned choice. His character, the true measure of his life, would remain untouched. Fourth, he would practice gratitude, not the shallow kind that pretends hardship is easy, but the deeper recognition that even in this moment, something is given. Freedom to explore new directions. Proof that he was never defined by the will of others. Evidence that fortune cannot dictate virtue. Gratitude would not erase difficulty, but it would shield dignity. To say, I still breathe, I still think, I still act according to virtue, is to affirm that no external loss can strip away the essence of life. Finally, he would remind himself of impermanence. The role was always temporary, even if it lasted decades. Nothing external is permanent. To expect it to last forever is to fight the very nature of things. To accept change is to live aligned with reality. Marcus trained himself daily in this awareness. The layoff, then, is not a betrayal of expectation, but confirmation of what he already knew. All things pass. If Marcus faced layoffs, he would not rejoice in them. He would not deny the difficulty, but he would remain unbroken. He would say, "This is what has come. My task is not to protest, but to meet it with reason, justice, courage, and self-control." And in saying this, he would turn what seems like an end into the very ground upon which resilience is practiced. What underpins this calm response? It is the Stoic framework itself. Without such a framework, life's blows appear random, chaotic, and unbearable. With it, those same blows become training for the soul. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations for display. He wrote them as tools. A layoff in our world is precisely the sort of event those tools were meant to meet. Difficult, sudden, emotionally charged, yet manageable by reason. At the center is the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, our judgments, our actions, our character. Other things are not. Markets, managers, and the weather of fortune. Layoffs sit firmly in the second category. Our response belongs to the first. Confuse these and you hand your peace to chance. Distinguish them and you recover freedom. The Stoic does not promise outcomes. The Stoic promises effort where effort counts, acceptance where it does not, and dignity in both. Next is the discipline of perception. Events do not carry labels. We attach them. Disaster, rejection, humiliation, these are additions. Marcus trains himself to pause, to see the event without verdict, and only then to choose a frame. The exercise is simple. Name only what has occurred. My role ended. From that clear fact, options reappear. Clarity shrinks fear because fear thrives on stories. When we govern perception, we govern the mood that would otherwise govern us. Then comes the discipline of action. Philosophy is not an alibi for passivity. Marcus would act, and act according to principle. Update the resume. Call the people who know your work. Learn a needed skill. Set a lean budget. Keep the promises you can still keep. Do the next just thing and the next brave thing. Action without panic is the Stoic signature, steady, specific, and suited to the day at hand. The impediment to action advances action, not by magic, but because obstacles focus effort. Finally, the discipline of will. This is endurance joined to consent. The world does not ask our permission to change. Will is the habit of saying yes to reality. Marcus calls this the inner citadel, a prepared mind that hardship cannot breach. Voluntary discomfort trains this fortress. Take the harder chair, walk when you could ride, rehearse less convenient futures. When the real trial arrives, the muscles already know their work. These 4 disciplines point to practices. Morning. Preview the day, anticipate losses, decide the person you will be. Midday. Return to the breath, correct the story, choose the next right act. Evening. Review without cruelty. What was in your control? What was not? What you will try again tomorrow. Between these anchors, keep a short list of principles. Justice in dealings, self-control in pleasures, courage in fear, wisdom in choice. From here, add the view from above. Picture your city, then your country, then the turning earth. See your life as one small thread in a vast tapestry. From that height, the meaning of a layoff adjusts. Its size changes. What seemed total becomes partial. What seemed final becomes transitional. Perspective restores proportion, and proportion restores judgment. Also add premeditatio malorum, the rehearsal of adversity. Do not brood. Instead, imagine calmly what you will do if payment is late, if interviews fail, if months stretch. Each imagined path includes a matching response. Simplify, ask for help, serve where you stand, refuse to lie. By pre-accepting possible losses, you refuse to be surprised by them. Through this framework, the surface may shake, but the foundation holds. The outer world can remove a role. It cannot remove your ability to see clearly, to act justly, to endure willingly. That is the heart of the Stoic answer. And it leads us naturally to the next section, turning principles into concrete lessons we can practice today. From these lessons flow checklists, scripts, and habits that translate calm philosophy into daily behavior. So when fortune moves again, you are ready, grounded, and decisively humane under pressure, consistently. From Marcus's approach, we can extract concrete lessons for ourselves. Philosophy without application is mere decoration. Stoicism insists that wisdom must translate into practice, otherwise it is empty talk. When faced with something as disruptive as a layoff, Marcus would not leave us with vague encouragements. He would offer habits of thought and action that preserve dignity and sharpen resilience. Detach identity from employment. You are not your job. You are your choices, your values, your conduct. The job is a role, like an actor's costume. Costumes change, the actor remains. When identity fuses with a title, its loss feels like self-erasure. Marcus reminds us that identity is deeper, grounded in reason and virtue. To remember this is to lose a role without losing yourself. Control your judgments. A layoff is not the end of worth. It is simply a change in circumstances. Yet most suffering comes from hasty labels. I am a failure. This is unfair. My life is ruined. The Stoic move is to resist these judgments. The bare fact is neutral. Yesterday employed, today not employed. Dignity remains intact unless surrendered to false stories. Marcus wrote, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your judgment of them." This is the discipline of perception applied directly to modern work. Practice simplicity. The less we depend on luxury, the less layoffs can harm us. Marcus urged himself to be content with little, to eat plain food, to sleep on simple beds, to remember that nature requires less than culture suggests. Financial prudence is not only economic, but philosophical armor. A modest lifestyle reduces fear, for when less is required, less can be taken. In an unstable economy, simplicity is a shield, stronger than any severance package. Strengthen networks of virtue, not just career. A life built only on professional success collapses when work disappears. But a life grounded in character, friendships, learning, and contribution remains steady. Marcus valued fellowship and reminded himself of duty to the common good. When career falters, relationships and integrity sustain meaning. The Stoic lesson is clear: cultivate bonds of trust and mutual respect. They endure longer than promotions and provide more than paychecks can buy. Use adversity as training. Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." A layoff is not an end. It is the obstacle that becomes the path. It becomes a chance to practice resilience, adaptability, and humility. Adversity is unwelcome, but it is also the only arena in which strength grows. Without difficulty, courage and endurance remain untested. Every challenge becomes raw material for the practice of virtue. Remember impermanence. Everything external ends. To expect otherwise is to live in illusion. To accept it is to live in peace. Marcus rehearsed this truth daily. He knew that positions, wealth, and reputation are lent, not owned. Layoffs are simply one reminder of this universal law. When permanence is no longer expected, loss no longer feels like betrayal. It feels like confirmation of what was always true. Each of these lessons translates philosophy into daily life. They turn layoffs from devastation into discipline, from collapse into course correction. Instead of asking, "Why me?" the Stoic asks, "What can I practice here? What virtue is demanded now?" The shift is subtle but profound, from passive victim to active participant in fate. These principles also interlock. Simplicity supports endurance. Clear judgment support action. Networks of virtue support identity. Together they create a life resilient to the volatility of fortune. Marcus's wisdom is not abstract theory, but a blueprint for surviving what modern economies so often deliver. And this leads naturally forward. If these are the lessons, how do we apply them today? How do we carry them into resumes, interviews, budgets, and conversations with family? Philosophy that stays on the page dies on the page. Philosophy lived becomes strength. It is to this application, practical, grounded, modern, that we now turn. Now, why does this matter for us today? Because layoffs are not an ancient problem. They are a modern certainty. Entire industries rise and fall within a decade. Automation replaces roles. Startups collapse overnight. Stability, once imagined, is a fragile illusion. In such a world, resilience is not optional. It is survival. This is where Stoicism proves timeless. While others cling to security that does not exist, the Stoic learns to anchor within. While others curse fortune, the Stoic adapts. While others panic, the Stoic responds with clarity. This is not indifference, it is trained steadiness. It is the ability to live in volatility without being broken by it. Stoicism also answers the deeper wound of layoffs, the sense of personal failure. Our culture worships productivity and confuses output with worth. When a job ends, shame often arrives, whispering that value has ended with it. Stoicism rejects this. Worth resides in character. Success is alignment with reason and justice, not titles or compensation. A layoff cannot take away honesty, courage, fairness, or self-command. It can only display whether those qualities were genuine. Put differently, a layoff is a mirror. It reflects what we have built inside. If we have built only a career, we feel hollow. If we have built judgment, discipline, and service, we remain intact. Marcus's counsel returns. Do not attach identity to roles, attach it to virtues. Roles shift with markets. Virtues remain with the will. At the practical level, Stoicism reshapes habits. First, attention. News cycles amplify anxiety. Feeds magnify comparison. The Stoic limits inputs, protects mornings, and chooses what to notice. Second, language. Instead of "I was destroyed," the Stoic says "my role ended." Clean language cleans the mind. Third, economy. Simplicity lowers the cost of survival and the fear that breeds haste. Fourth, community. Friendship, mentorship, and service build a net stronger than salary alone. Applied at scale, these habits could alter corporate culture. Imagine leaders who prepare teams for change, speak plainly about risk, and treat departures with dignity. Imagine policies that favor transparency over spin, redeployment over humiliation, and clear severance over confusion. Imagine employees trained not only in tools but in perspective, able to act without panic, to collaborate without blame, to accept uncertainty without paralysis. This is philosophy operationalized. What about families and communities? Layoffs ripple outward. Bills still arrive. Children still need calm parents. Neighbors still need help. The Stoic response is not isolation, but contribution. Ask, what can I do today that is within my power and useful? It may be as humble as updating applications, calling 2 friends, exercising for energy, and cooking a simple meal. Small acts, repeated, rebuild agency. Agency reduces despair. There is also the discipline of expectation. Stoicism trains us to expect change before it arrives. Premeditation is not pessimism, it is rehearsal. We picture outcomes we do not prefer and decide in advance who we will be if they occur. Then, when events unfold, we follow the plan rather than follow panic. The future is never fully ours, but our preparation always is. Consider the view from above. Picture your home, your street, your city, the map, the turning earth. From that height, one job transition sits within a vast web of causes and effects. Perspective does not trivialize pain, it contextualizes it. Context restores proportion. With proportion, judgment improves. With judgment, action steadies. Stoicism does not deny grief, it denies the tyranny of grief. It allows space for honest emotion while forbidding the story that emotion must rule. We can feel loss and still choose our next step. We can acknowledge fear and still write the email, make the call, attend the interview, and thank those who tried to help. This is not coldness, it is disciplined humanity. In an unstable society, Stoicism grants the only stability that matters, an inner constitution. Economies will sway, technologies will disrupt, policies will change. The task always is the same. Protect the mind, govern the tongue, embody the virtues, and do the work before you. From that posture, you can meet fortune as partner or adversary and remain the same person. And so we move to practice. If these principles are true, they must become routines. Morning preview, midday reset, evening review. Clear language, limited inputs, simple living, steady outreach, honest effort. From such routines grows a character that no layoff can erase. That is why Stoicism matters now. It turns instability into training and fear into fuel for disciplined action, and prepares us for the next chapter without bitterness, without denial, and without surrender. Practice daily, begin small, and persist when motivation feels thin. So what would Marcus Aurelius do if he faced layoffs? He would pause. He would not let the first wave of anger or despair dictate his response. His pause would not be weakness, but discipline, the space to ensure that reason, not impulse, takes the lead. In that moment of silence, he would remind himself that events are external. Only his judgment belongs to him. He would then separate fact from judgment. The fact is simple. Employment ended. The judgments, this is a catastrophe, I am worthless, my future is destroyed, are optional. Marcus would strip those labels away and leave the clean fact untouched. Without judgment, the event loses its sting. He knew well that external shifts cannot damage the soul unless the soul consents. He would hold fast to the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, our thoughts, our actions, our character. Other things are not. Decisions of managers, fluctuations in markets, global disruptions. Layoffs belong to the second category, response belongs to the first. To confuse them is misery. To distinguish them is freedom. Marcus would not waste energy railing against what he cannot change. Instead, he would focus on the one thing always available: choice. He would also see impermanence clearly. Every role, every status, every possession is temporary. To expect permanence is to live against reality. To accept impermanence is to live in alignment with it. Marcus rehearsed this truth daily, that tomorrow may change everything, that no title is guaranteed. A layoff, then, would not surprise him. It would confirm what he already knew. The wise man does not mourn the loss of what was never fully his. And having grounded himself in these reflections, he would act with dignity, courage, and calm. He would seek the next step without panic, pursue work without desperation, and maintain fairness even toward those who delivered the dismissal. For him, virtue would remain the true employment, justice in dealings, self-control in desire, wisdom in judgment, and courage in hardship. These no external force could terminate. For us, the lesson is equally clear. Layoffs are not the end of us, they are the end of a chapter. Our task is not to despair, but to write the next chapter wisely. Philosophy is not escape, it is equipment. Stoicism is not detachment from life, it is engagement with reality, armed with clarity and resilience. To practice Stoicism is to remind ourselves daily that worth is not borrowed from the market, but rooted in our own reasoned choices. And this is why today, Stoicism is not just ancient wisdom, it is the right path for modern society. It gives us what the market cannot, an inner citadel, a strength untouched by layoffs, untouched by volatility, untouched by fear. It gives us freedom. It reminds us that no matter how unstable the world may be, stability of character is always within reach. If this resonates with you, if you want to continue exploring the practical strength of Stoic philosophy for modern life, subscribe to Sophoria. Share this video, leave a comment on how you have faced setbacks, and let us continue building a community grounded not in fear, but in wisdom. Remember, the world will always change, but you, guided by reason, can remain unshaken.